All right, I'm here with Tour de France stage winner Juan Antonio Flecha. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things, whether or not Pogacar should be worried about Remco, the GC battle overall, how Biniam's doing in the sprint battle overall. But before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors of the day, MMR Bicycles. I have the Adrenaline Arrow, which I just took on a nice little adventure to a coffee shop here in Catalonia. And Juan, you have a MMR bike as well, the Grand Tour. Have you taken it on any cool adventures lately?
Well, I've done a lot of gravel on it actually, and a few on road on tarmac as well. And it's super comfortable bike. Obviously, it rides very smooth and very versatile because you can obviously use it not just on tarmac. You can go touring very easily with it. As you can see, I'm still on my Nobby tires on, so that tells a lot about the Grand Tour. It's a great touring bike. That's what the name is all about, right? And then you decide whether you want to go off road, dust roads, dirt roads, or just stay on tarmac. So it's not as racy and fast as your bike, but it probably take you longer.
Now I have the X Tour 2, which is the gravel bike. I run the knobby tires up front, and then I have a slick tire in the back. Are you doing the same, or you have knobby on both?
Well, at the moment, the setup is exactly as yours.
Okay.
I have Nobe and semi slick at the back, and
Okay.
a bit of Nobe tires at the front, and it's always good for, especially the terrain we have here in South Barcelona. It's quite stony, it's quite rocky at some areas, and so yeah, recently a bit more maybe on more tarmac, and then going to some gravel roads that are a bit more rocky, and yeah, it's a great setup for that.
That's awesome. So let's get into the GC battle. Remco, at this point, at today's stage, where we saw he was pretty active, and I do want to touch on that in a little bit, but I believe he's around 35 seconds down from Pogacar. He's already won the time trial stage. We know how much of a time trial specialist he is. He's also lost 2 kilograms of muscle, which they mentioned, kilos of muscle.
Hmm.
So he's been downplaying it going into the tour. He's looking really good, and I think it's appropriate to bring up what he did at the Vuelta last year. We consider what we have coming up, right? So last year,
Yeah.
looking back, he won stage 14 at the Vuelta, which had 2 HC climbs, a Cat
Hmm.
3 and a Cat 1, and then he also won stage 18, which had 3 Cat 1s. And going forward in the Tour de France, we have stage 14, which is going to be incredibly hard with 2 HCs and a Cat 2. Stage 15 the next day is going to have 4 Cat 1s and an HC finish. And then stage 19 and 20 are going to be pretty hard as well. So, I mean, do you think Pogacar should be worried about Remco more so than even Jonas right now?
I would be. For me, as you will say, Renko came here downplaying it and say, "Oh, and my point is to build up onto the Tour de France, my first tour." And it's difficult to see that on Renko, right? He wants to, he was clearly downplaying it, but he's been racing quite smart on this first week. He's already won a stage of the tour of his first Tour de France. So I see him racing, quite offensive when he has to, but very solid. Especially because on this first week, although we've been through mountains already, we've been through crosswinds, but he seems very solid. There's a say, at least with Spanish or these cyclists, there's a say in Spain, say, you're either hombre tour, which means you're a cyclist who can do Tour de France, or you're not, right? Some riders are like, no, you're not Tour de France guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite. But I tell you what, when you see someone performing that well already on first week, you can tell he's a nombre two. And I mean, I dare say now, like for me, Renko is hombre tour. He's a Tour de France rider, which is totally unexpected. Because before coming to the tour, a lot of people were saying like, oh, he's not really built for the Tour de France. He always has one really bad day on the mountains. Yeah, true, and still a lot to come, as you well mentioned on the stage, especially 14, 15, and the last one is a lot of mountains, the Pyrenees. Pyrenees in July is just hot, man. It's just
Yeah,
damp, it's hot, it's just sharp valleys, and it's not for everyone. But I believe it will be for Renko. That's the story. And for me, Renko, I mean, I will be worried if I would be Pogacar. The way he's racing, the way he's just taking initiative, and more particular, the way he seems to be riding through the Tour de France. He's just taking, he's understanding what the tour is about, and he's liking it. He's really
yeah,
loving it, and wow, I mean, for me on the dirt roads, on the gravel stage, he's been on yesterday stage. He's been definitely like the man. He's been the one who surprised me the most. It's not easy. If we remember the Giro a few years ago on that Strade Bianca stage, he struggled so much, and he was attacking on that stage on the Champagne region. So it was like, whoa. I mean, he's got a lot to say on this Tour de France.
yeah. And I don't want people to think I'm saying that he's going to just somehow drop Pogacar, but I feel like with the last stage being a TT and it's only a Category 2 climb, that's something that Remco could thrive in. I think he needs to, or Pogacar I'm speaking about, needs to go into that with the more of a buffer just to be secure, you know?
And the big question mark will be like, as you say, last stage, and we're talking about the last week. Question mark is Renko going to build up all along the Tour de France? It's quite likely. You know, we have to think that it's very likely. And how is Tadej Pogacar going to perform through the 3 weeks? If you think about, he's done the Giro, he's won the Giro. All right, he's coming, he's super strong. But you know, the theory is says that he might not be that good on that last week. So of course he's still the strongest. He, of course, today deserves by far doing the Giro Tour double. But watch out, riders like Renko. You know, he's building out. Jonas is not, he hasn't lost much time as well in the first week. Yeah, it's going to be a tough. It's going to be definitely a tough race for Tadej Pogacar.
What did you think about today when Remco initiated the attack? I think around 77 Ks to
Mm.
go. It was Tadej, Remco, and Jonas in the group, and Jonas did not want to contribute. I felt like that was a mistake because he had the opportunity to get more of a buffer from Roglic and kind of set his sights on Remco and Tadej as the main contenders for the podium. What did you think about that? Do you think he made a mistake? Do you think he played it right?
I think he's playing a bit the same way that he played last to the France. He plays other to the France. He just focused on, and as well today said on the interview, he seems to be just focused on me, on what I'm doing, and he's not trying to distance his rivals, you know, which is important, and he's just letting other rivals do as well. Like, so it might not be ended just the only rival of Jonas. Whether it was a mistake from Jonas or not, I think if that's a strategy, if that's the way they wanna win the tour, you gotta go. You gotta do it in a way, right? And they clearly have that plan. And so if that's the plan, is it the right one or not? Well, at the end, you know, true, they're not distancing Roglic, but is it Roglic going to be really a threat to Jonas? I don't think so either. So he's just saying, yeah, fine. I'm still having other rivals with me, but I just want to be as close to you as possible. And it's becoming a bit of a mental game as well. You know, Pogacar's interview past the finish line were like a bit frustrated
Yeah,
and a bit
very.
frustrated. So it's becoming that you know, that frustration is probably it's going to be around his mind for a few days, and maybe you know it's cost him some energies from today.
Yeah, and speaking of GC contenders, I know some of the viewers want us to do an update. I had
Hmm.
Carapaz as a sleeper GC contender. Stage 5, Carapaz went pop, and it has been downhill from there. He's like 17 minutes
Yeah,
down on GC. What do you think is going on? Because this is not like him at all.
it's weird. We think about Carapaz wearing the yellow jersey not long ago, and the way he just follow on San Luca alongside Remco as well. You think he should be on a better level, and why is he? I mean, obviously he's out on GC, right? He's out. I don't expect him coming back, but I do expect him coming back on other mountain stages. But he had a really bad crash before the Tour de France. He was out. He came back. He performed. He still got the yellow jersey. Probably, after these crashes or injuries, you think you're 100%, you're still not. And sometimes it takes a bit longer, or you try to push his coming to the race, push your recovery, and I don't know, really. I think it's a mix of different things, but of course that crash had a lot to do with his preparation. He's very solid rider, right? He's quite
Absolutely.
solid. So not seeing him like that solid, something's wrong. Something's wrong with his performance, his health, the crash, and maybe things are popping up now, and I think that's more or less the reason.
Yeah, I'm hoping he comes along and at least gets a stage or two out of this year's tour. Because definitely a rider I love watching. He always rides aggressively. Um, Moving on to the sprinters, we know Cav got his record-breaking
Yeah.
win. Um, I did another video on that, and it wasn't received the best, going over whether he should have been relegated or not. Gave my opinion on that. I would not have relegated him. He did receive a warning, him and Jasper, but Biniam and Cavendish have been kind of the stars amongst the sprinters thus far. Uh, Biniam is kind of like resurging because he started off this year, won Surf Coast Classic. He got a podium at the Giro before he crashed out. After that, he's only won like a 1.1 race, and then before last year at the Tour, he had a podium. But he seems like he's in his stride, man, and I really am enjoying watching it. Do you think he can hold on to the green jersey going forward?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, clearly he's just getting, again, same as Renko. He's getting the tour, right? He's getting it. He's in a, things are really flowing well for him, and he's just there. He was on the gravel stage as well, quite ahead. He looked comfortable. That's not easy, when you look at the terrain, the pace the race was raced on. He's in a very good shape, really good shape. And B, he's on that Tour de France flow, right? Sometimes a
Yep.
lot of riders struggles. Look at Richard Carapaz. What's going on with him? He seems to not really haven't really taken the tour, or things are not well for him. And I mean, Philipsen, he's been second a few times, but yeah, he's just not winning. And Mathieu van der Poel, he was there. He did that move on the gravel, but it doesn't seem like the Tour de France is that well for him. From my experience, when the tour doesn't start on the right way, it's quite difficult to make it work, right? And when the tour starts in a very good way, like Bini's tours has started in the first week,
Yeah.
two-stage win, and how solid he seems, I mean, it's quite likely you're going to keep it like that. So, answering your question, yeah, huge chance of him getting the green jersey, which would be amazing. I mean,
Absolutely.
that would be like just totally, I mean,
Neutral.
huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge.
And he picked up 8 more points today. So he's
Yeah.
definitely like being on the offense with protecting his green jersey, and I love to see it. I would say I picked the lead to dominate this year, but again, it's his first Tour de France. I would say him and Biniam have been the most consistent so far. Deli, he's finished on the podium twice, and then he had a fourth and a fifth place finish, but he's still a very young kid, only 22 years old. So I think, like Benny, he had a first taste of the Tour de France last year, and now the second time around, he's just rolling.
Yeah.
Um, but back to Cav, man, do you think Quickstep is regretting letting him walk? 'Cause they have no
I don't,
sprinting, but like he got the historical
well,
victory.
I think they just couldn't afford him, right? Like it was a complete different situation when Patrick signed him, and he could afford Cavendish, right? And later on, Cavendish sort of equals Merckx amount of victories, and he all of a sudden became more expensive. And Lefebvre say, yeah, you can't. can't afford you. I mean, I would love to, but so probably that justifies not signing him, right? So it's like you
Yeah,
have an excuse, say like, well, I really love the guy, but it became too expensive. But whether or not, I mean, if you look at where they spend the money, now, if you look at probably they spend a lot of money, and that's something even Lefebvre say, I'm not going to sign again a rider for the future, we'll sign what they do now. And so if you follow that sort of headline from Lefebvre, you would say, oh, maybe he did a mistake. Maybe he should have signed him. Maybe he shouldn't have signed or overpaid certain riders and just put his money on Cavendish. And the reason I'm saying is not because of the stage win on the Tour. It's not just because, right, that stage, he broke the record. So think about all what's going to happen from now. Cavendish, and I'm telling you, like, that was maybe 10 years ago. He had a plan, and his plan on his career was to break that record, right? And he had in mind like a complete like documentary and a complete, series of media. And what I'm telling you, like, what's coming next after that victory and the record breaking from Cavendish, I think it's going to be pretty big, right?
yeah,
And of course, on those victories, the one with Quickstep, fine, but it's not the one that broke the record, right? So that's probably, it would have been a huge investment and a huge media return for Patrick Lefebvre's team. But yeah, I mean, as I said before, they couldn't afford him that
yeah,
time, and well, but you know what? Like, what was really nice to watch was everyone being so happy about him winning that stage, and even Lefebvre gave an interview saying like he explained all the story when he signed him and he signed Carv and yeah, he said also he doesn't owe me anything, like saying, yeah, I bought it, I signed him for good money, like they could afford him, but and he gave us some victories, he doesn't owe me anything, so it's fine, it's quite fair, it's nice to watch when you see every former teams or teammates where he's been, like everyone celebrating his victory into the front.
yeah, absolutely. And it's not over yet. I think stage 10 is definitely right up his alley. He could extend that, and I'm
Mm.
sure he would love to do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially I think with Pogacar, he's the only probably realistic next one in line that could surpass that. I think he has 12 Tour de France victories now. But yeah, I think stage 10 is definitely right up Mark Cavendish's alley, and we'll see what happens. Um, Back to Matthew Van Der Poel, you mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on between him? He finished 11th today, but he and Jasper do not seem like they're clicking like they were last year at all. And he started off
No.
hot.
Yeah. It's weird. I like to see it that way. The tour is such a demanding race. The level is so high as well that you need to be at the top level, which I don't doubt about that. I think they are in a good shape, and they are at the tour as they should be. But maybe the level is higher, and maybe all of a sudden they bump into a higher level of what they were expecting. And last, if you watch a bit last business victory, right? And there's a moment there, like maybe 300 meters to go, 400, they all line up, all the sprints are lined up, and there's a moment where like the sprint's still about to happen, and I could feel the tension there, like saying like, oh my god, imagine being there. Would you go? Wouldn't you go? Would you go too early? And that, if you're nervous because probably you haven't won yet, because things are not as you expected, that's the moment where you're losing because you're hesitating for too long. You don't have that. I think that's sort of the fear they have. It's a week gone. They haven't won a stage. They're not used to, and that's starting to become a bit of a problem, right? Like, oh my god, something's wrong. Maybe nothing's wrong, right? Maybe everything's fine. Maybe it's just
Right.
like it's just a matter of not being lucky. And but yeah, you can tell that even on the gravel stage, come on. I mean, I was really expecting Matthew Van Der Poel just doing the Van Der Poel show, right? He didn't. Why he didn't?
Yeah.
It's like I think it's just like they're missing a little bit. So probably let the rest they go. Let's reset their minds, probably.
Yeah.
Still a lot Tour de France to come, but and let's hope we see a bit of Evenepoel show, because I love to watch that, especially, and we haven't really.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Going forward, who do you think is kind of teams wise is behind the eight ball, needs to kind of show something going forward, and who do you think on the other side of the coin has had a really, really good Tour de France so far?
Well, I mean, if you look at Total Energies, who's they've done. I mean, they won an amazing stage. For me, that's the team who's really benefit from this tour. Arkea, they got a stage. Astana's
Yeah,
got a stage. And that's what's surprising. Like teams that have probably been very successful in the last year or last 2 seasons, even. Oh my God, they come to the tour, and all of a sudden they're just getting that result, and you know, I'm happy about that as well. Like it's nice to watch that. It's nice it's good for the sport as well. It's not always the same. So for me, seeing Tour G's winning that stage, it's what a win, what a victory for this team. Because it's a good team. It's got good sponsors on board. It's like Total Energy is also a good sponsor.
right.
It wasn't fair. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's good budget. I mean, don't know about the company, but I'm just saying good budget. It's a company investing good money on it. It wasn't fair for me, right? Like, come on. I mean, these guys, why they're not getting this good season, right? And all of a sudden you get a Tour de France and what a stage in the Tour de France victory. It's like, what? That's sort of fades everything's off, right? Just like, this is it. We're back. So
Yeah,
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it seeing results from, let's say, smaller team, or like, not that successful team recently. It's weird, isn't it? Like all of a sudden you see them all like, oh my God, look, Astana, you see like Arkea winning, Total Energies. I wouldn't. I mean, if you tell me that before the tour, I said, no way. This is not what I expect about the Tour de France, and it's happening, and it's great.
no, I'm with you. And I think like even Intermarché they're punching above
Yeah,
their weight. They're a world tour team, but their budget is not
man.
not that crazy. And even
No, not at all. Not at all. Sorry, because Intermarché sort of inherited a bit my last team as a professional, which was Vacances Soleil, and it's sort of the same. It's sort of the same, We're on World Tour, but we're the lowest budget team. And as a rider, you don't miss anything. Don't get me wrong. As a rider, I've been in Team Sky and I've been at Vacances Soleil. You got everything you need, right? You got everything you need. But it's a low budget team, right? And
right.
also you get them like it's different. It's a different
Yeah,
story. It's a
yep.
different story. I tell you. And you see them not just winning, you see them organized, working together, just getting the stage win. Man, that's fantastic. I mean, that's great. That
Stage eight
shows
was
a lot to cycling. Yeah.
yeah. In stage eight, the way they first got the intermediate sprint, and then how they set Benny up for the win, and how patient Biniam was, I think like just the winning is starting to be infectious, right? And then even,
Yeah.
I mean, DeLee, Lotto's not even a world tour team, and he's been on the podium twice. Like that's still good exposure. So the Belgian teams are doing really really well. And if you had said, with the Asper and Sam Bennett and Fabio Jakobsen, all these teams are lining up, and somebody told you no, it's going to be Intermarché who's going to win the most stages as a sprint team and be protecting the green jersey, I wouldn't believe you.
No. No, 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 no.
But it's
And
been
it's
fun to watch.
mad, but it's mad, but that's a tour, It's like I think it's good. It's great, and it's great because we all seem to focus on like, oh, some teams they use it as an excuse, right? Like, oh, this team is more successful because they have a bigger budget. No, they don't. They look at Decathlon AG2R.
Exactly.
Huge season. On the other hand, they came to the tour. Have you seen them? Are they there?
I was wondering the same thing, man, because they
It's
did
like,
so good at the Giro, and now it's
yeah.
like, what are they?
Even before the Giro, they won with La Peyra, the French Championship. So the whole season they've been like full on. Tour de France, which is the biggest race. If you're in a French team, man, you can do nothing the whole season, right? You could be
Right.
like completely lost the whole season. But the Tour, you have to be there, right? And
Yep.
it's just happening the opposite. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't see them. It's weird. I mean, it's just like that tells like because it's good to see this because sometimes it's like, oh, Bini's victories are easy. Oh, he won a stage. No, 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 no. Just he's just what he's doing is so difficult.
That's what
One
I
week,
said. Yeah.
it's just like you can't imagine.
Yeah.
You can't imagine the fight. I mean, even to get to the bus, to get the bus to the start is a fight. Everyone wants
Yeah.
to get the best spot. Everyone wants to be there. Everything's a competition in that race. Everything,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Getting on the pit zone, everything. So I want to be before. I want to be the first. It's just the level is huge, and and
Yep.
and just dominating the sprint. It's like whoa. It's just like it's
It
not
makes
easy.
makes it look easy. Biniam's personally my favorite. I wouldn't say he's a pure sprinter because he can climb a little bit, but it's been really fun to watch him mature like before our eyes during this race because he's making decisions that he
Yeah.
was not making just earlier this year. He's really maturing, and what Cav did on his win,
Hmm.
he made it look easy, but the decisions he made are very, very hard to make.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
get the
yeah, yeah.
experience and you're able to do it.
As you say, he's more mature. He's more mature, and obviously it was different cycling when I turned professional. But I remember before my first Tour de France, I was at Banesto, very experienced team on Tour de France, and their philosophy were like, we're not taking a rider to the Tour until you're a bit more mature. So they rather wait a bit, a couple of years, and they will say, yeah. Now I remember the year I went to the Tour for the first time. The team management said like, Flecha, you're not ready for the Tour. Now you can, you look like, and it wasn't not about my performance. It was more about the way I was racing, probably, right? And
Yeah,
that's so the Tour completely requires that, more mature rider. And there are exceptions, obviously. There's people who just they're young and they're successful,
but
but
which
even if you,
be
yeah, but
honest.
that's like
Yeah,
that's one out of millions, right?
yeah,
But one out of millions, one, two out of millions. But that's it. But the rest is a complete different race. The Tour is fascinating. It's fascinating. I miss it. I watch and glued to what's going on the Tour de France every day, and I still really love it. Still really enjoy watching it and just reading all about it. And it's a great race. It's a great race.
agree 100%. Well, thanks for coming on and joining me again, man. And I look forward to doing it again with you next week.
Thanks, Calvin. Have a good week in
You too.
Girona. Have a good ride, and see you next week.